The man woke up in the middle of the street. Around him the streets are in chaos, buildings are destroyed and people are running from something in terror. Beside him, the soldiers are firing their weapons. On top of a building, we see a giant monster spider, making the helicopters nearby seem like flies as it screeches and snarls. This all started a few weeks ago when the man, Alex, an exterminator, turned up at Mrs. Jefferson's house to take care of an extermination. Mrs. Jefferson is a bit off her rockers, but Alex deals with her and takes care of the rodent despite her having a cat. After threatening the rat's entire generation, Mrs. Jefferson then unleashes her inner cougar, trying to get Alex to smash them cheeks, but Alex isn't that down bad. At that moment, a brown recluse begins climbing on Alex's arm and it ends up biting him. Alex ends up at the nearby hospital to get treatment for the bite. He tells the nurse that the bite may be fatal, and wonders if she would have breakfast as a last meal, but the nurse still denies him. Not even when you're dying, buddy. Down in the morgue, a mortician is getting some work done when one of the body bags begins to move. He thinks the apocalypse may have begun, but when the lights go out, a giant spider bites him. An alarm is raised and the patients are evacuated from the ward. The doctor tries telling them that a giant spider bit him, but they think he is overreacting. Alex overhears the conversation and offers to take care of the spider problem, but offers to do it in return for having his bill taken care of. The nurse checks the mortician's wound, which is festering rapidly. Meanwhile, a convoy of military vehicles are heading towards the hospital in a hurry. Alex and a security guard, Jose, head down to the morgue where he sees where the spider was actually living inside a body and burst out when it got big enough. At that moment, the convoy pulled up, and a hard-looking general and his entourage entered the lobby. Down in the morgue, Alex reveals his own special poison to take care of the spider, and tracks it down to a loose vent. He learns that the vent leads to the basement and decides to go take care of it. He still thinks that it is just a small spider and the mortician is overreacting. He tries to get Jose to accompany him, but Jose is not on that white people stuff. Back in the lobby, the general orders a perimeter to be set up for containment. He introduces himself as Major Tanner of the U.S. Army, and believes that a body accidentally made it to the hospital and asks for the morgue. In a hospital room, an old man sees the vents to his room push open and the spider crawls inside. He tries to call for help, but he is too weak as the spider crawls up his body and begins biting into his face. Alex is inside the small vents, being guided by Jose. Suddenly, something dashes past him. He goes looking for it and stumbles upon thick sticky webs with rodents inside. Alex gets himself stuck in the webs and begins to struggle, and he hears the spider screech in the distance. His flashlight goes out, so he tries using a lighter, which sets the webs on his hands on fire. He eventually gets it under control. The general gets to the morgue and sees the body and orders his units to gear up. As they make their way back up, the nurse comes to report the dead old man. They determine that the spider is growing at an alarming rate and will be uncontrollable in a few hours. Alex makes it to the basement and sees another set of webs. He radios to Jose, but an army woman intercepts the call. Alex spots the spider in a corner and goes after it, but it crawls away. The spider circles around and is about to attack him, but the army woman turns up with the aim of a woman. With her horrific gun control, she causes the spider to escape into the sewers, then blames Alex. Women. On the streets, we see a homeless man. He spots a shiny gold coin hanging from webs and gets stuck trying to grab it. The spider attacks and sprays him with venom and eats him. Back at the hospital, Alex is brought before the general and asked to describe what he saw. Alex tells them it's the biggest spider he has ever seen. It is fast, smart and strong. The doctor notes that the spider has reached stage 2 and its exoskeleton has hardened. Alex tries to give them his advice from his years of experience, but he is asked to leave the room. Outside, Alex hands his business card to the army lady, telling her to call if she needs help, and she warns him to keep his mouth shut about the spider. Alex is about to leave, but Jose tries convincing him to stay and fight the spider, noting that he could be famous for catching the biggest spider ever, and Alex agrees with him. Jose decides to tag along, noting he could be Robin to Alex's Batman, and the two set out. The military decides to use a drone to search for the spider in a 5-mile radius, until a news report comes on about a giant 6-foot spider seen in the city, with residents in shock, even Walmart Tupac, one pack, saying the spider might be on drugs, but they all swear they can beat its ass. Alex and Jose are on the road, trying to deduce where a giant spider might go. Based on its nature, they think it might go close to the river and head there. The general gets a call from the LAPD, and a SWAT team is sent to a specific location where the spider was spotted. The team encounter massive webs with as much as 30 people captured and eaten. They then realize that the spider has molted and entered stage 3. Alex and Jose get to the river and see the team out front. Alex gives Army Lady a call to confirm if they got the spider, and she breaks federal law by telling them that they missed it. Alex then deduces that the spider will need to hunt for food and might go to the hills, so they set out for a nearby park where lots of people are usually gathered. At the park, people are having a good time. An old man is checking out some cheeks when he is grabbed and eaten. The military drone spots the giant spider hiding in the trees and a team is prepared. Alex and Jose are racing to the park when a cop pulls them over. Alex gets out to talk to the officer and gets a gun pointed at him. He then tries to bribe the officer and almost gets arrested, when the cop gets a call about a disturbance at the park. Back at the park, the spider crawls out of the trees and begins hunting and killing a lot of adults, before heading to the kids' park for takeout. Alex and Jose make it to the park and draw its attention, causing it to chase the car. Jose tries shooting the spider but it has no use. The military spots them on the drone and Army Lady gives Alex a call, telling him to get clear as he is heading into a trap. They drive into an army roadblock and bail out of the car in time for the army to light up the massive monster. The spider throws Alex's car at the men before leaping over them and making its way to the city. The general orders Army Lady to hunt down the monster before it reaches the city and she gets some heavy explosives. Army Lady is about to move out with her team. Alex tries to warn her that the spider is at home in the woods and they are walking into a trap, but she tells him she can handle it. The team is in the woods, checking for any sign of the spider. The team is then attacked by the spider and wipes out 2 teams instantly. The general then decides to send in everybody and somehow, Army Lady gets stuck in webs in the open woods. The rest of her team is wiped out before Alex comes to her rescue. He heats his knife and cuts her loose. They are cornered by the spider and Army Lady decides to blow them all up, before Jose comes charging in with a machine gun and pushing it back. The 3 make a run for it, but Army Lady is too slow and gets webbed up. The army opens fire, so the spider runs off with Army Lady. Alex returns to the mobile headquarters and wants them to send a rescue team for Army Lady, but the general is sure that she is dead. Alex learns that the spider is going into stage 5. They explain that the spider is an experiment using extraterrestrial DNA from Mars. Their hope was to use the growth hormone derived from the DNA, however one food sample was infested with spiders and one became crossed with the alien DNA. They then reveal that in stage 5, the spider will reproduce. They then ask Alex for his opinion on how to deal with the spider, when a news comes in about the spider heading downtown LA. Having grown to the size of a building, the spider begins to rampage through the city with cops and the army firing at it. The spider crawls a large building and the army decides to call in an airstrike to deal with it. Alex tries talking them out of it but he gets removed from the room. Using the drone, the army spots Army Lady alive inside a building. The general runs to call Alex, telling him about Army Lady. He only has 24 minutes before the airstrike hits. He then gives Alex his truck to get to her. On their way, Alex is brainstorming on how to deal with the spider when Jose reminds him that its webs are flammable and they can shoot the spider in the ass and blow it up. Alex gets a call. He only has 10 minutes to get to the building before falling debris crashes into the van. Alex passes out and awakens shortly after with people running and screaming around him. He heads back to the van and he and Jose grab weapons and rush into the building. With 3 minutes left on the clock, they get to the 60th floor and realize that the spider has laid eggs. He hears Army Lady calling for him and he rushes to help her. The baby spiders begin hatching and rushing towards them and Alex and a few other survivors rush out of the building. The airstrike hits, and the massive spider is dropped from the top of the building, seemingly dead. Alex gets a call from the major congratulating him on saving Army Lady, but the spider begins to move. Alex rushes at the spider, while Jose grabs the bazooka. He barely manages to avoid the spider legs before grabbing the bazooka and shooting the spider in the butt, blowing it to pieces. Alex and Army Lady then share a kiss to celebrate.